Hey guys, it's the Metal Blade 5, and with Super Mario Maker 2's release, and it adding everything I wanted in the first game and more, I finally got a Switch Online membership because you pretty much need online to enjoy Mario Maker, so I got to working on some levels of my own and uploaded them, but nobody's played them, so I'm very lonely. I did this kind of thing with the first Mario Maker, where I simply gave the ID codes for my levels, and I said I was going to make more videos for that, but I never did. So I'm not promising anything this time around, but in Smash Bros. Ultimate, I did make 2 custom stages not too long after the stage builder was added, just for my own personal use. But upon getting online, I thought, why not? And uploaded those as well. Starting with Mario Maker 2, the first level I made was, ironically, a recreation of a level I made in the first game. My Metroid-inspired level, Super Metroid Bros. Out of all the stages I made in the first game, this was the one I was the most proud of due to how I was able to adapt the gameplay of Metroid into the level creator. Although seeing it again years later made me think, why did I do this? On multiple occasions, as there were some really random enemy placements at times, like I had one Hammer Bro in there for no reason, and some of the hazards that need to be traversed via the power-ups acting as upgrades seemed really unfair. So I made numerous tweaks to the level to improve it, such as having more consistent enemy placement and less punishing hazards like the line of 11 thwomps at one point being reduced to 5. I also learned of a major sequence break you could do in the original level, so I removed the star to prevent people from doing that. There was also a lesser sequence break at the beginning, where after passing through the Morph Ball section, there would be a long line of piranha plants. What I intended for you to do is head down, grab a mushroom, use the mushroom to tank a hit from a group of giant spinies and pass through them to get a fire flower, then head back and use the fire flower to kill the piranha plants as a way of slowly introducing the Metroid design to the player. But I added spinies at the ceiling of the beginning parts, and realized you could jump on them and pick up the shells to kick them at the piranha plants to kill them. So I also removed those spinies. But my biggest issue with recreating the level appeared during one of the boss fights. I included a battle against 2 giant Bowsers stacked on top of each other to act as Kraid. Now, I don't recall this ever happening in the first game, and it didn't happen whenever I tested the level, but when doing the clear check, the Bowser on top would always use the ground pound attack and jump right in front of where Mario stands during the fight, completely messing up the battle. I initially uploaded this level without this being fixed because I couldn't think of a solution, but then I did think of one, so I deleted it and re-uploaded it with the floor beneath the Bowsers being raised so they can't jump on the donut blocks. Unfortunately, this does take away a bit of the Kraid battle mimicry the original level had, and sometimes the top Bowser can drop off to make them no longer stacked, but it was much more fair this way. Of course, just like the original, I used the Mario freestyle because the underground theme felt the most alien planet-like, with that part representing Brinstar, while the castle theme in the sub-area represents Norfair. When I made the original level, checkpoints hadn't been added yet to the first game, and I did consider adding one here because it's kind of a long level, but I couldn't think of a suitable place for one, and since you need the necessary power-ups to proceed, I was worried that the checkpoint bringing you back as Small Mario would prevent you from beating the level. So yeah, sorry. So next I actually tried making a music level, but despite looking up multiple guides on how to make one, I just couldn't get it to work. None of the instruments that the enemies or items make matched well for the song I wanted to use. At one point in the level, the sound would briefly pause for no reason, which completely messed up the song's pacing. I couldn't find any methods of having Mario move, be it run, walk, auto-scroll, moving platforms, etc. that matched the same speed of the song, and in the end, it just didn't sound right. So I had to scrap it after hours of work. This left me annoyed, and out of my frustration, I decided to make the most brutal, sinister, Ross O'Donovan-styled level I could think of. I thought it was about time I made a level in the 3D world style, and before the game came out, I wanted to make a level based around the Koopa Troopa car. So that's where Daredevil Drive came from. In this level, Mario has to use the car to drive over lava and all sorts of other hazards whilst not stopping and making perfectly timed jumps. This is definitely the hardest of all the levels I made, and it took me many tries to properly test the level and perform the clear check. The only issue I had making this level was that the car moves so fast that I quickly found myself running out of space in the level. But I managed to include pretty much every evil idea I had, driving over piranha creepers, properly bouncing off of enemies, and so on. And it all ends with having to make an absolutely perfectly timed jump to avoid crashing into spikes. I'll save the surprises for anyone who wants to try this out. Then I chose to make another non-themed level. Upon learning that icicles can activate on-off and P-switches, I really wanted to make a level based around that. Since I wanted to try out one of the new level themes, and so that the icicles would make sense, I chose the snow theme to create the Mysterious Ice Cave. Most of this level involves platforming across dotted line blocks in time with the icicles activating the on-off switches, both landing on platforms and wall jumping, with several usages of P-switches, as I found making sections for those took up a lot of space. Kind of wanted to use tracks as well, but I couldn't think of anything challenging to do with them. I also wanted to make a night theme level, and to play up the mysterious part of the cave, I have it start on the daytime snow theme, then the sub-area, which takes up most of the cave's interior, being the night snow theme with its space background. This level is basically a poor man's version of that awesome Switch level that's the most popular one, but I like the idea of not being in control of when the switches are hit, and building challenges around that idea. The on-off switch is one of my favorite additions to the toolset, as it can do so much, so I really enjoyed planning out this level. And for the last level I've made for now, getting this idea after I discovered a level recreating a Shantae level, I decided to recreate the first level of Shovel Knight, the Plains of Passage, or at least attempted to. The size restriction really messed with me when making this level. As such, I had to cut the free screens before Black Knight just so I could fit this in. And that's precisely why I'm not a fan of the current level size limits. Everything else I feel I was mostly able to recreate accurately. I chose the Mario World style for this level because the yellow blocks match the destructible stone blocks, and the spin jump and cape feather, which is very plentiful in this level, acts as a perfect simulation of the shovel drop and Shovel Knight's regular digging attack respectively. I used red Koopas to represent the red ants found in the actual level, dry bones for the skeleton knights, Galoombas for the slimes, and a green paratrooper on a track, a red paratrooper, and winged spike tops to act as the small dragon enemies with each of their different flight patterns. For the dragon mini-boss, I originally had Bowser fill that role, but since you can't spin jump on him, and because I felt Bowser breathing fire at you before he came on screen really disrupted the level, I replaced him with Boom Boom. You can easily skip past him, but you could skip past the dragons in Shovel Knight as well. I also placed twisters to fill the role of the bubbles, and placed big coins in the locations where you found treasure or other collectibles. As for the walls that you had to destroy in the original game, the only similar thing I could think of was the on-off switches, although it does make getting some of the big coins exceptionally easy. I am a bit concerned about how people may react to this level because I could totally understand if people think this is a bad recreation, but I hope that at least some of you can find enjoyment when playing it. Now onto the 2 Smash Bros stages I created. There were a couple of stage ideas I had in mind when first opening the stage builder, but they didn't come to pass as I found them difficult to make. Unfortunately, neither of them are as funny or ridiculous as that Aqua stage that got taken down, and neither of them have hazards because none of the available ones would make sense. One of my earliest ideas was to make a modern Kirby game stage, since all of the Kirby stages are from games that Sakurai worked on, and there are many locations from modern Kirby games that I think would work well, but seemingly never get considered. First I tried making the Lore Star Cutter from Adventure Wii, but I couldn't get the shape right, so instead I opted for Adventure Wii's first world, Cookie Country. Specifically, a recreation of the overworld level select thing in Cookie Country. It's a big stage, and I tried to include as many details from the overworld as possible, but Ultimate Stage Builder also has a restriction that I find dumb, as objects in the foreground and background take up the exact same space as the stage itself, even though those are only for decoration. I really wanted to include the doors that enter each of the levels, but I ran out of space before I could finish all the touches on them. So I had to remove them and instead place other background details like the rectangular mountains. Stupidly, this stage only allows up to 4 players, even though its size would be perfect for 8. Then for the other. I got this idea when the stage builder was revealed, and one of the examples they showed was a stage based on the title screen of Mario 3. This made me realize that I could make a stage that I've always wanted to see in Smash Bros. The stage from Paper Mario The 1,000-Year Door, as that's the stage I always pictured if Paper Mario ever got added, and it would be better than the Paper Mario stage we actually got. Though, honestly, I don't think my recreation looks that great.
Yeah, that's one fine-looking
stage.
Why doesn't mine look like that?
I think a child could do better, but this stage was much easier to make compared to Cookie Country due to how simple it is. It's basically a final destination that extends off-screen, and the curtains cover up the sides much like how they do in the original game. For the background, I based it off of the background that's used in Chapter 1 when Mario is heading towards Schwunk Fortress, as that's the background I always pictured when imagining it as an actual stage. My biggest problem when making the stage was actually the seats to make up the audience. For some reason, Ultimate Stage Builder doesn't have a copy and paste feature, so I had to draw every single seat manually and try my best to make the proportions match every single time. But as you can see, some seats are shorter and fatter than others, so those audience members got really screwed. And I originally had more seats, but that caused me to run out of space, so I had to delete some and stretch the row out to cover the center part of the stage. Then there came an issue with naming the level. I believe the official name for the stage in 1,000-Year Door is just The Stage or Battle Stage, which I felt wouldn't convey what the stage is supposed to be. And the character limit is too small for me to write 1,000-Year Door, so I had to call it TTYD Stage and hope that people would get it. So there you have it. That's all the levels and stages that I've made right now. I'll probably make more levels, at least in the future, but won't promise that I'll make more videos like this. I do remember that I made a Gradius level in the first Mario Maker, so I could make a sequel to that with the Night Sky theme. And a lot more of my online usage in Smash Bros. Has been downloading ridiculous Mii fighters and this awesome Torterra stage, but I'll leave it at that.